The U.S. National Institute of Health, or NIH, announced a significant policy update requiring all NIH funded research publications to be made immediately available as open access upon publication. This eliminates the previously allowed 12-month embargo. So, what does this mean? It means that now any research that's funded by NIH has to be, at the date of publication, open access for anyone to be able to read. Previously, different publications would have a 6 to 12-month embargo, which meant that they had sole access to it, where only members of their articles could actually access it until that time ended. So let's look at what's changed. Previously, researchers funded by NIH could wait up to a year after publication before publicly sharing their papers. This will be completely removed as of July 1st, 2025. Now, all research funded by NIH now must be freely accessible on the publication date via repositories of things like PubMed Central. Now, what's the motivation behind this? Well, this was driven by the principles of transparency, reproducibility, and public accessibility. The idea is that taxpayers funded this research, taxpayers should have access to this research. What does this mean for the researchers themselves, though? Well, now researchers are going to have to plan for open access fees whenever they're writing their grants or performing their research or about to put their article in for publication. And that may be something that they need to take into account ahead of time because some of these things can be fairly hefty. It also means if they were planning on publishing their article in a closed source journal, now they're going to have to change gears and shift over to an open source journal. So they might also, again, need to take extra steps to make sure they have additional funding or budgeting adjustments to accommodate for these open access publication fees. Now, what does this mean for the academic publishing industry? Well, it means that they're likely going to have to face potential revenue shortages or losses due to their diminished subscriptions and sales, which means that they may have to do some restructuring. It also means that they may be pushing more people towards open access and possibly changing their fee structure based on that. So, what are some of the benefits that might come of this? Well, we may have accelerated dissemination and utilization of scientific knowledge because it's not going to be locked behind closed journals. More people have access to it, more innovations may be able to be made more quickly. This potentially could benefit during a public health crisis or for global research efforts. Also, it could lead to enhanced collaboration opportunities among researchers worldwide because barriers to access this current research will be eliminated. Now, of course, what are some of the challenges and concerns? Well, there's economic pressure, that is, potential financial strain on researchers who must cover these article processing charges or APCs. And then for quality control, this may lead to some issues where publishers may need to increase their APC cost or create new publication models that could affect the rigor or quality of the peer review process. Now, the broader context of this is that this is part of a larger global trend towards more open science. So, similar policies have been enacted by funders and governments worldwide, such as the European Plan S initiative. This may lead to ripple effects across academia, potentially leading other funders, such as NSF or Department of Education, things like that, to adopt similar policy. Looking here, this is where I first found this information at nature.com. And it says NIH funded science must now be free to read instantly and what you should know. And it talks a few things about here. So from 1st of July, researchers funded by U.S. National Institute of Health, NIH, will be required to make their scientific papers available to read for free as soon as they are published in a peer-reviewed journal. This is according to the latest public access policy, which you can find here at NIH's Public Access Policy Overview. And it says that they want to increase access to publications resulting from NIH funding offers many benefits to the scientific community and to the public who funded the underlying research. As I said, the idea is that the public funded it, the public should have access to it. When patients, families, and healthcare providers can access published findings resulting from the NIH funding, they're able to better understand and address the most critical health concerns facing their communities. It also allows researchers, students, and members of the public in all communities to have equitable access to such content. And then you can find more information here at the NIH's Open Policy website. So if we look at this Nature article, you'll see things like, what is this new policy? Again, this is saying that as of July 1st, 2025, all NIH funded research must be open access at the date of publication. Now, this was actually something that was originally being implemented under the Biden administration in 2024. The original date that this was meant to begin was December 31st. But the Trump administration decided that they were going to implement it sooner. So this is why it's sort of breaking news now as opposed to the end of the year. Now, what does this mean for authors? Well, again, authors are going to have to take the cost into account because it does cost money to put your journal articles into open access journals. Now, what issues might researchers encounter? Well, for example, publishers like Elsevier and Springer Nature, which require papers to be published in closed access journals, will remain only available for subscribers for the embargo period, again, 6 months to 12 months. So in this case, they may have to push those who have NIH funding towards one of their open access journals instead of going with their main closed source journals. So authors should know that in advance, if they don't want to pay the APC, but still want to comply with NIH policy, then they have to go somewhere else. Now, one thing that this Nature article does point out is that some authors may actually not need to worry about these costs because a lot of universities, knowing this was coming up, have been working to put in place agreements with the publishers to allow researchers to publish open access papers at no cost to them. This is generally through contracts where the university will shift funds that were previously used for closed source journals to then paying for these open access fees. Of course, with this, there are some complications or hurdles. For example, no one's really sure exactly how the NIH is going to check for compliance with this and continuing to follow the policy. So right now it says it's unclear how the agency will verify that researchers are adhering to the zero embargo deposit requirement. Doing so would require confirming not only that a paper is available on PubMed Central, but it's also made accessible on official publication date. And to further these complications, earlier this year, the NIH laid off thousands of its staff members, which means that it may not have the capacity to fully track compliance with this new policy. And then finally, one more complication they brought up is, when is the actual first day of publication? Is it based on online publication? Is it based on the print version? So some journals which have both options, this may lead to some gray area of, are we talking about being published online or published in print? Thank you for watching. To continue learning, click the linked video here for the next lesson. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.